Hey everybody, it's me, Mark Hassan, and today we are going to talk about the sign of Gemini. Now, in our series, we started with spring because that's usually where everything begins in astrology, and we have the breakup of a season, which is composed of three things: a beginning, a middle, and an end. We have words for those things: cardinal, fixed, mutable, beginning, middle, end. Now, every element is going to go around, and we have fire, earth, air, water, fire, earth, air, water, fire, earth, air, water. We're just going to keep doing fire, earth, air, water around the entire wheel until all the signs are included and all the signs are developed. Okay, so to review, we did cardinal fire because it starts with fire, starts with cardinal, and that's Aries. There's only one cardinal fire sign. We do fixed earth, and that's Taurus. There's only one. And we do mutable air, and that is Gemini. And so today, that's our topic. Now, if you think about astrology as an evolution of a person or a being, we start with the birth, which is Aries. We start with that being starts realizing there's a body, that's Taurus. And then we start realizing that being has information to collect. Like there's other beings out here, right? There's communication can happen. And that's the one thing that mutable air has. It's the ability to communicate. And that's one of Gemini's big gifts. If we think about Gemini as a communicator, as somebody who has this gift of language and this ability to translate, then you see adult Geminis doing just that. And we'll get into that in a minute. But if we go into the mythology of Gemini, what we see is any mythology that has to do with twins. And one of the most famous one would be Castor and Pollux. And they were brothers. One was mortal, one was immortal. One dies, making a very complicated story very, very short. And the grief of the immortal twin was so bad that he prayed to Zeus, like, please do something or just take my life, whatever, the grief. And Zeus was really moved. It was very rare for him. And so he allowed them one to live on Olympus for 6 months and one to live on Earth and vice versa. And they were allowed to compare notes, made them very happy. So this is an example of what happens in Gemini. Now, Gemini is, again, twins. And we'll see this is designated between an emotional twin and a twin that is very mental. So we have this fight that always goes on inside of Gemini, and you'll see how that plays out. All of the mutable signs are dualistic. We're always going to see something with twos here. So keep that in mind when we talk about the mutable signs. It's very, very specific to them. Even though all the signs have a range of motion and some of them look very opposite, the mutable signs have a distinct duality to them. Now, this duality in Gemini is the emotional body versus the mental body. So here's what we have. This mutable air loves to talk, girls just want to have fun this thing. They love communication, translation, information, magazines, reading short books, taking short trips, keeping it light, easy, easily bored. This is an information junkie. Like, give it to me. Doesn't matter what it is. You'll see Geminis that are hoarders with magazines stacked up everywhere because they might want to get to that at some point. They have information that is so useless that it's actually useful sometimes. So, that's the mental part, okay? That's the one twin that loves learning and is light and easy and easily leaps up into that twin. And Geminis like to live up there a little more than they like to live inside of the other twin, which actually, if you think about it, metaphorically resides in their belly. And that twin is an emotional twin. That twin doesn't necessarily see the world through the eye of twinkling information and easy fun. That twin sees maybe hurts or wounds, or maybe sees a feeling reality, maybe sees love. And that twin is not as easy for most Geminis to experience. So here's what you see in Gemini. You see this ability to leap up and be happy and light and easy. And every once in a while, you expect that light, easy friend to show up, and they're not. They're dark, they're heavy, they're depressed. They're not feeling very good. They're not feeling that energy. And to them, that's how they've always been. The thing about Gemini is if they're feeling it today, that's how they've always felt. It's like it's such a fun experience to watch in your Gemini friends. There's so much to know about Gemini. Now, they rule the hands. Sometimes people say the lungs, but the pairs of things, the duality, remember, and they gesticulate a lot. They like to talk with their hands a lot. Fluids, you'll see Geminis with a lot of fluids, water, alcohol, whatever it is. They like, it's almost like a psychology, because they're air, they need water, or they need a fluid. So just fun thing to note. See if that's true for the Geminis, because there's always exceptions, right? There's always modifications, which we will get into in the more in-depth things. Now, one of the goals of Gemini is to embrace that twins, to embrace them. And metaphorically, we could say that meets in the heart. So it has to do with compassion. It has to do with ease. It has to do with them being easy on themselves. This easily bored thing is because if you're bored, you might drop into that feeling zone. And that's not a place most Geminis like. In fact, if you ask a Gemini how they're feeling and you lean into them and you make it very serious and slow, it's really uncomfortable for them. It's not that they don't have feelings. It's like they don't want to go there. They'd rather keep things easy. They'd rather keep the information flowing. And then if they practice letting that little emotional twin out more frequently, letting that twin have a little voice, being able to observe without reacting to the twin, what they find is that the extremes are less. The frequency of having that twin bust out and take over for a week or two, and sometimes longer, is less important, because they've allowed themselves to check in on themselves. They've allowed themselves to check in on their feelings. Okay. It's a very big deal for Gemini to learn that. Now, if you're in a relationship with a Gemini, one of the things you realize is like they're air. You can't grab them. You can't hold them. Don't try to do that. They're going to flow. They will always, air finds its current way back to the place that it's going to. I'm not saying play the field, and I'm not giving any innuendos here. I'm just saying Geminis need to feel free. They need to feel that they can explore. They don't need home to be a battleground. They don't need home to be a place where they feel punished. Nobody does, actually. But Geminis particularly need to feel that there's a flow to the energy. And if you find an irritable Gemini, what you're finding is that emotional twin is being locked out and not being allowed to express itself. And you can work with that. And we'll get into that more, of the psychology of the signs, as we go further. But the most important thing is to realize, if you expect a Gemini to be the light and fluffy friends you had yesterday, it's kind of like you're setting yourself up. You don't know who's going to show up. You don't know how. You don't know when. Let it be new every time, because it will be new for them every time as well. Now, Gemini, remember, is the sign that prepares us for the transition into summer, right? So it's the very end of spring. So that flexibility is very important. That need for the duality is very important. You'll see in nature a lot of, like, we think of like flying insects and mimicking birds as the ruler of Gemini. We'll get into the rulerships too. But just for you to play with the concept, it's a Mercury ruled sign, and Mercury, Hermes, was a playful, sometimes a trickster, called a trickster. You'll see that in Gemini's light and twinkling, sort of loving, having fun, and loving, sort of like telling you two different things as if they had always said the same thing. So, so they are really good at gaslighting, but it doesn't mean that they do it as a natural thing. But a Gemini has so much information in their head that if they look like they're going to get into trouble, they'll come up with one of those stories in their file cabinet to avoid that. And so be careful how, you try to nail a Gemini. It's all about communication. It's all about the process of communication. It's all about letting it evolve. It's about trust, and it is about appreciation, of appreciating in the moment. If this is a good mood Gemini you got, appreciate that. If it's a bad mood Gemini you got, maybe we'll meet another day. All right, you guys, I hope that helps you understand the little world of Gemini. I'll be back to talk about that world of Cancer. All right, thank you so much.